Hi, this first video is going to be about right triangle trigonometry, working with sine, cosine, and tangent functions. First, when we're working with a right triangle, we have three different sides. Everything with trigonometry starts with your reference angle, so I'm going to call this angle R. Across from angle R is a side of the right triangle, and we're going to call this the opposite side because it is across from our reference angle R. The second side that we have is there are two sides that are adjacent or next to angle R. We have one side that is also across from the 90-degree angle. The side across from the 90-degree angle is always called the hypotenuse. So we'll label that as HYP. And so the other leg of the right triangle adjacent or next to our reference angle is called the adjacent side. So we're going to label that as ADJ. And so when working with right triangle trigonometry, there are three functions. The first function is called the sine function, abbreviated SIN. And so the sine of our reference angle, angle R, is defined as the ratio between the side opposite angle R divided by the hypotenuse. The second trigonometric function is called the cosine, and that's abbreviated COS. And so the cosine of our reference angle is equal to the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. So it's a ratio of the adjacent side to the hypotenuse. And the third ratio is the tangent ratio, abbreviated TAN. And so the tangent of our reference angle is equal to the opposite side from angle R divided by the adjacent. So opposite divided by adjacent. Now, to help memorize those three functions, there is an acronym that some people use. We have the sine of the angle, which is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So we have the acronym SOH. The cosine of our reference angle is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and so our acronym is CAH. And the tangent of our reference angle is the opposite over adjacent, and so that acronym is TOA. And so some acronym, or the acronym that many students use to remember those three right triangle trig functions, is SOHCAHTOA. So on the review worksheet, the first questions asked you to express the sine of angle B, the cosine of angle B, and tangent of angle B as ratios. And so we're working with angle B as our reference angle. And so if I label the sides, so here's our right angle. Angle C is the 90-degree angle, and so the side across from that is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to label that as HYP. The side across from angle B is the opposite side, so I'm going to label that as the opposite side. And the other leg of the triangle next to angle B is the adjacent side, so ADJ, to label that as the adjacent. And so to find or to express the ratio, the sine of angle B, again the sine, if we use the acronym SO, that's the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. The opposite side from angle B is the square root of 33, so the sine of angle B is equal to the opposite side, so the square root of 33 over the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is 7. The cosine of an angle, again, was defined as the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And so from our reference angle, the length of 4 is the adjacent side length, so 4 over the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse of our triangle is 7, So the cosine of angle B is defined as 4/7. And then the tangent ratio was defined as the opposite side divided by the adjacent. And so the tangent of angle B is equivalent to the opposite side, the square root of 33. The adjacent side to angle B is 4, so the square root of 33/4. So in terms of setting up the sine, cosine, and tangent for, again, right triangles, use the acronym SOHCAHTOA, opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, and opposite over adjacent. And you can use this to set up any equation for a right triangle trigonometry.